This is Real Race Talk from Texas. It's the Revved Up Sports Show. Here's Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez.
Monday on the Revved Up Sports Show as we bring you in with some NFL Films music because the draft is coming up on Thursday. So figured that'd be a good way to get this thing started, get this Monday party started. Hashtag Real Race Talk coming to you. I am up north in Round Rock, Texas, down south. It is showtime, Bobby Chaffee, as we get set. And Bobby, another week, the pandemic continues. We keep rolling, but a little bit of good news possibly today as Governor Abbott and the fine folks at Texas Motor Speedway possibly getting something put together.
It does definitely sound like that. Now, of course, it looks like they won't have any fans there.
Yeah.
But at least that means we're getting closer and closer for two things. One, the ease of restrictions for this pandemic, and two, that means we're even that much closer to get back to racing.
Yeah. So I think that we are finally making a little bit of progress. And again, you hear one thing and then immediately you hear one thing and you see something else. But I think the beauty of this is that you actually have the governor and the racetrack and the sanctioning bodies probably all working together here to try to get something put together. And I was talking about it the other day, racing, golf, baseball. These are sports that really set themselves up for social distancing, as it would be.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the perfect way that that it needs to be with the social distancing, and I think that we're going to see it more and more. Hell, especially with the way that the oil stuff turned out today, you definitely want to. I think they're going to try to jumpstart the state as fast as they can.
Yeah. Hopefully something there, because that's pretty dire right there. Looking at that, I also did see that we talked to the folks from Lone Star Motocross on the Saturday show a couple of months back, and I did see that they will actually be open on Wednesday. They'll have a practice date out there, very limited groups. They'll have to stay 6 feet apart and so forth. But I mean, at least we're starting to see a little bit of gathering, however it may be. But where people need to be smart right now, Bobby, I think you'll agree, is it's okay to gather, but gather smartly. Don't do what they're telling you to do.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, don't just because you can doesn't mean you can. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should, right? One of those old school adages that way. Just because you should. I mean, it's good that we're actually getting some stuff happening, getting some stuff rolling. That's actually really good.
Yep.
But in terms of, we still got to do it smart. I mean, you saw it as about 50-50 today in terms of the procession there in San Marcos for the fallen officer. It was about 50-50 of people wearing masks and people not wearing masks. So I think it just kind of came down to your own personal preference as to whether or not you were going to wear one or not.
Yeah, and I don't think it's. I mean, I totally appreciate and understand the folks that are going to the state capitol and doing, voicing their opinion right there. That's one of the freedoms that we get. But when you go to protest and you're protesting on top of each other, you're totally doing the opposite of what the authorities are telling you to do, and that's just kind of a bad mark. That's kind of a bad mark, in my opinion.
Well, I think it is. I mean, it's the ultimate catch-22 where you see people outside, they're protesting. They're protesting to have their businesses open. Mm-hmm. You can go back and listen to the archives, listen to our discussion on it. Obviously, we're pro-safety, but we're also pro-economy. Both of us are. We both want to see this done as fast as we can so that it can, the sense of normalcy is something that I think people took for granted before. We've talked about it before, and I think because of the sense of normalcy is basically gone. Your sense of what you thought you knew, what you thought you had, all of that is gone. Mm-hmm. I think that to try to get back to something similar to that is what everybody's goal is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I got that from the press conference from the governor a couple of days ago. He's trying to open things up. Obviously, you got to use your brain. There are some people out there that are going to instantaneously complain because when we open stuff up, people are going to get sick again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's just normal, right? But as long as the stuff is not skyrocketing, I think we're going to end up being okay.
Yeah, yep. 7 o'clock on this program, we're going to talk to Robert Mullins, and here in just a few minutes, actually, I was handed, probably about 15 minutes ago, I was handed some information that many of you, hopefully, let's share the hell out of this, whoever's on here right now. I was handed some information that I'm going to share here in just a little bit, probably about 6 or 7 minutes, that will be very, very interesting to folks. Barely had time to get all of this put together, working on a graphic actually for the broadcast now as we speak. So if you hear me stumbling and bumbling around my words more than normal.
Breaking news for everybody, including me.
Yeah, breaking news for you also. But you were out there. That was kind of my slow response to your text about being stuck in that. I was working on some things here. But so we actually did see as well that it looks like, so I'm guessing that the 600 is going to happen. It sounds like the 600 is going to happen. I saw something today where they're trying to get the North Carolina governor and everyone to buy in there to make those race team, the folks that work within the race team, make them essential workers, which they would be to do that. But I also saw that a lot of the teams and were trying to kind of nudge NASCAR there, possibly the week before, to have a race somewhere in close proximity to Charlotte. So they could, drive back and forth, and the obvious favorite right there is Darlington. So I'm down with that. I'd be totally good with that.
Darling, like having an extra race at Darlington or moving the Southern 500?
I don't know. They haven't really determined what their logic would be on that. I like the Southern 500 penciled in where it is, but I don't know if the teams are more to get back into active competition. Although with what I saw today from the Texas governor and from Texas Motor Speedway, to me, that June date, that June 6th, the doubleheader is a no-brainer.
I mean, that's the one that would work. The only drawback that I see with it is that it's probably going to be no fans.
Yeah.
No fans equals no media. Meaning you don't get to be there. But I guess it's not about us. It's about getting racing back in the eyes of the world. I mean, it would that if you're going to do it, kicking off with a doubleheader between the two most popular American motorsports, that's how you do it. That's Texas style right there.
Yeah. You storm back in and you do it right back there, and I'm sure Eddie Gossage and his folks there have been working on that for quite a bit. And if they do have the buy-in from the governor and some of those Denton County officials, that's a step in the right direction. And to start the season that way would be tremendous there at the Great American Speedway to get that rolling. Quick iRacing update. Yesterday, William Byron wins again on the Cup side. On the IndyCar side again, Simon Pagenaud wins that. The finish of the IndyCar race was good. I did enjoy that. Boy, that NASCAR race lacked some pizzazz, my man. Lacked some pizzazz.
It was too easy,
yeah.
Right? I think that's the difference. A lot of it was too easy. But Richmond is unique. It was funny when Ryan Luzier won the race at Richmond, the Coca-Cola iRacing series race, to win 3 in a row the other day.
Yeah.
He's like, Richmond kind of reminds me of one of those tracks that I used to race my super late model on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder if he was referring to our old friend Central Texas people.
Yep, just a little bit bigger. That's kind of what I've always thought that it did resemble that. Bobby, you mentioned there at the start of the show, and I apologize because I actually wanted to touch on this, but just working on some stuff here. You mentioned it that you were there with the procession there. Justin Putnam, our thoughts and prayers to his family. Just such a sad situation as we lose him. And it's kind of double fold. I saw he was actually like an all Syntex kicker and punter for Westwood High School back in 2006. So it kind of hit home there with one of my high school families. Justin Mueller, Franco Stewart, of course, those officers involved in that one as well. So even at a time like this where, the country's going through sadness and everyone is scared, you still have that happening. And it's just another shot of reality right there the other night.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad deal. It was very interesting to see all that coming together. The part for me that I really enjoyed seeing was all, we get this from all, people listen to this all over, but the connection of where Rodney and I are is Austin's a big city, 1 million people or so in Austin. But all around Austin, it's just like all other parts of America. You got a bunch of these little towns, and when I say little towns, we're talking about 30 to 50,000 people.
Yeah.
I think Round Rock's a little bit bigger, but just south of Austin, in between Austin and San Antonio, you've got a handful of towns that are all roughly about 40 to 50,000 people. Yeah. And, there's places like Kyle and Buda, and then you've got San Marcos where the officers were shot, and then you've got New Braunfels and shirts and stuff as you get closer to San Antonio. Even Seguin, to a certain extent, you got to see police officers in full dress uniforms in their squad cars. Some of them were in the procession. The cool thing was, I guess, as cool as it can be, was right directly across from the San Marcos Police Headquarters. You had probably 15 to 20 units from the Braunfels Police Department, all dressed in blues, directly across.
Did
from
they have his cruiser out there? I think I saw something.
I think they did. Yeah,
That's
when
awesome.
we got to the thing. It was running about 30 minutes behind where it was supposed to be, which is, I mean, that's just part of it.
Yeah.
So we got to see most of it. The actual hearse itself was surrounded by motorcycle cruisers. I think there was a San Marcos one, a Hays County one, a DPS one, and a Travis County one on all four corners of the hearse. So it was a sad deal, yet kind of cool to see the solidarity. And it was kind of like, because you grew up in Lockhart, which is not too terribly far from me.
Right.
One of these days, we'll actually just have to post the Central Texas map to show everybody what it looks like. We talk about it all the time.
Put a graphic up there, but
I mean, it was cool to see the solidarity of all the small towns back together. You hate that you had to see it for a circumstance like this, but it was still good to see it.
Yeah.
We're all still one big happy family. I think that it hopefully in some way, shape, or form, some good will come of it. That's what you hope in a negative situation like this. But you never know. Just thoughts and prayers out to the family, and not only them. The whole San Marcos PD family. It's a shock to the system when something like that happens. So we got good close friends over there, former racer and longtime member of the racing community, Chase Stapp, former commander, whatever you want to call it, for San Marcos Police Department.
He's a chief. He's police chief over there, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a sad scenario there because I've heard about the story, and the bad thing is double fold. I mean, there's domestic violence involved, and it's just a sad scenario. And then these poor officers, they really walked into something that was, it was premeditated. At some point, this guy, but hopefully, wishing all the best from all of us. So again, thoughts and prayers there. So as we said, Robert Mullins is coming up here in just a little bit at 7:00. We will have him on. Going to talk about. We'll talk about Romco. We'll talk about him. Lots to talk about. A very celebrated and good man in Texas racing. That's at 7:00. But as I was talking about before that. Breaking news, and let's get this set up for you as you see right there. Hopefully that graphic is clear enough. I'm not totally sure if it will be or not, but talk to Gina Shile-Knowles with the Houston Motor Texas Short Track Racing Series, and there is your revised schedule right there. That is the current plan based on what she's been able to work with. And working there with the Bakers at the racetrack, and just everything that's been going on. This thing's going to get rolling pretty quick, Bobby. I think I can send you a copy of this. But
I think I've seen that one. That was, I believe, option 2. I think is what, if that serves me correctly.
Yeah. So what you've got, this is May 2nd, May 16th, and May 23rd. Those are set for limited practice, and it's going to be social distancing. All of that's going to be in place, and then on June 13th is a practice. She's hoping at that point that's going to be when you can actually we're a little more not quite as confined as we're going to be starting out, and then June 20th is the first race. So pretty quick, June 20th and July 4th to kick off the season. So still same number of races in there.
Yep. And despite the fact of every day kind of running together, those dates will be here right before you know it.
Absolutely, they will. And so racers, get this. I'm sure it's going to be up on the Texas Short. This actually isn't even the official thing there. It says unofficial, but it's official because she said it's official. So get after it, boys and ladies, because it will be here, as Bobby said, before you know it. There's a special event there for the Eco Stocks. I believe that is on the 19th, September 19th. That is in there as well. And Gina wanted me to be very clear, and we'll get that put up here for you again in just a second. But she wanted us to be very clear and tell racers, understandably, there's been financial hardships and job losses and financial losses and all of that. If there is some difficulty getting your race car, whatever it is, to the track, something has popped up, contact her. She said, contact her. She wants cars on the track. And I can tell you, I think that there's going to be some admission price changes and so forth to get people in the stands. So just trying to get this thing off the ground.
She's working hard. I think all the extra videos are helping with the social media stuff. It looks like now's the time, guys. Everybody's been talking about wanting to support the track. Now we get that there's extra circumstances that nobody thought there'd ever be, but now's your chance to support that racetrack. If there ain't no butts in the seats, there's not going to be a racetrack in 2021.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line right there. And of course, the challenges, with sponsorship involved there at the racetrack. Obviously, she did have folks lined up, but of course, those businesses have probably run into some sort of hardships as well, as we all have. So that's going to factor in as well. So we talked about it a long time ago that 2020 was going to be a no bullshit year. A year to show out. Even with everything that's happened, unfortunately, it still is.
Well, I think that's just the nature of it. But now's the time to make it happen. I think that once the schedule's in place, it looks like a lot of the same dates were there. The biggest change, I think, is actually racing in August.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to. It makes sense. A lot of the dates are already there, so she's still racing the same amount of races. So, yeah, kind of back to the old days, basically twice a month. That's the best you can ask for, right?
Yeah, and folks have wanted that. Folks have truly wanted that. So, that's the thing. You will have not back to back. Other than that 19th race with the Eco Stocks, but you will have some races in there rather close to each other, but get out there. Just get yourself out there. Because that's the bottom line. NASCAR sanction. I did see in her video that the super stocks are now going to be the fourth NASCAR sanctioned class out there. So we've had all this super stock back and forth going on forever. Doesn't matter, guys. Get out there. You're sanctioned.
That's right.
You got a points fund. Get your ass out there.
You're now a sanctioned class. You now won't get to run with the Outlaws. I would have sanctioned Eco Stocks is what I'd have done, but obviously I'm not going to second guess Gina for anything that she's been trying to do over there. So that's just myself, my personal opinion. But not that I'm trying to contradict anything that Gina does, but I would think that now is the super stocks chance. We know what the Eco Stocks bring to the table.
Yeah.
But I also think that now it's time for the super stock guys to get off the pot and get their stuff together and make it start happening instead of complaining about rules and everything else. Get your ass to the racetrack. Just take your car and go.
Yeah, quit what ifing. Just get it out there, and not everybody gets to win. Get out there, and especially right now, hopefully a lot of these guys that have these cars sitting that are halfway close, hopefully, with this pandemic that's been going on and everybody's missing and dying to get to the racetrack, and we're going to hold all you people accountable, because all I see when I look on social media these days is everybody, I can't wait to get to the track, and I want to be at the racetrack, and all this stuff. You're about to have your chance, so I hope you plan to go, people.
Well, let's hope. Obviously, you're always going to get your keyboard warriors. There's a couple of people who will go unnamed that you and I are both very interested to see if they actually show up with all of the shit talking they've done this whole time. But, we'll see. We're not going to name any names, but we see who certain people are.
But there is that schedule right there. So, again, I'm sure it'll be posted a little bit later on, but we did want to get that up. And as I said, this is quickly moving parts and pieces. This has happened really, really fast. This is actually there was another version of it before this, so that was a little bit of what was going on here. It was like, okay, here it is. No, actually, wait a minute. This is what we're doing. So, and a great question right there. I see that pop up. Fans or no fans. That's something that remains to be determined. At that point, we really don't know what they may or may not allow at that point. Something that's been talked about. I will honestly tell you that this is something I don't think that Gina's going to get pissed off if I tell you all this, but it's been bounced around that if you can't get folks in the grandstands, possibly the live stream thing that we're seeing just to get the exposure there. But obviously, you want fans in the stands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I've been part of some of those conversations with you as well about whether or not the fans are in the stands. But I mean, Gina's goal is to put on a show, right? That's her main goal. That's what she's got to do. She needs the help from the racers. She needs the help from all the fans. She needs the help from everybody. Crews too. So it's one of those everybody's got to work. It is more important to work together now than it ever has been in racing all across the country. You're going to see it at every single short track across the country. Everybody needs to work together. If you've got fans, call Gina. If you got a group of people have never been to the races, call Gina. Ask her. I bet she'd give you discount tickets. Tell she might even give you free tickets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and seriously, that's the thing. If there is an issue, if you have an issue trying to get your race car there for whatever reason, I mean, if your truck is broken, all of that, I mean, I don't know if she can help you with that, but if if it's a financial thing, it costs money to go racing. I mean, I can tell you that she's working tirelessly to try to get stuff put together to be able to get race cars out on the track, and that's the main thing at this point. I think if anything, and I'm really hoping that here with HMP, and I'm hoping when 37 South Texas Cotton Bowl, when all these others get to open up, Waco. Up north, I'm really hoping that it's just going to everyone converges on these racetracks, because it's been a long dry spell. iRacing is great, but man, I'm ready to I can't smell rubber and fuel when we're watching iRacing, so I'm about ready to get back to the real enchilada here.
No, even I was thinking about the other day. I was thinking about coming back out of retirement, trying to call at least one race at Houston, just because I'm itching too. It's been a hot minute since I've been behind a microphone. So I was thinking about it the other day. It seems kind of exciting again. So that's all. Let's make 2020 exciting again.
Well, I actually wasn't. I was missing it. I mean, obviously you miss it, but I wasn't missing it all that bad until a couple of weeks ago when I did that race on Race On, when I did that iRace, and that's when it was like, holy shit. Man, we gotta do something here. So, hell, I'm at the point right now of going out in the driveway and calling, as people walk by. It's getting a little gruesome at this point. But that is your schedule. It'll get posted up. But that's concrete right there. I asked her. I said, "Do we need to say that this is pending final review?" She said, "You say that's it." So that's it.
Yeah, the only difference between the schedule you see here and the schedule that you will see get put out later will be that it won't say unofficial. It will be the official schedule moving forward for 2020.
Yeah, and be paying attention, because as we said, with that NASCAR sanction that is now in place there with the Texas Short Track Racing Series and HMP, there still is a new a new series sponsor for the NASCAR home tracks, or what are they calling that? Grassroots NASCAR Roots. So
NASCAR Roots, I think.
Yeah, and NASCAR didn't want to move forward with that until they actually had some semblance of an idea of what was going on. And from the events that we're hearing in North Carolina and what we heard, Governor Abbott talking about today with TMS and all of those folks, it does seem like there's a pattern happening right there. So be looking for that sponsor announcement as well. That'll be coming, I'm sure, in the very, very near future. But at least with all of this, man, it just seems like we have a path.
And that's what I was going to say. We'll go back to the Texas Motor Speedway stuff. Obviously, you see on social media, everybody all pissed off. Hey, I'm a season ticket holder. I can't go in November. Let me go now. Look, as long as we get racing, I'm not saying that the fans are not important in the grandstands, but the main thing is to just get the race cars on the racetrack. That's the step number one. Because if race cars on a racetrack, that means that we have done exactly what we needed to do, and that's helped bend the curve. To keep this stuff from going more than what it should have. And so when we flatten the curve, that means that we are just that much closer to be able to be live in person and, see the cars in front of us other than on the television. But we got to take it one step at a time, people. Don't be getting all pissed off that you can't, Eddie Gossage is going to get your money back if you're a season ticket holder and you can't go to the race because it got rescheduled. I don't think that it's in anybody's wheelhouse or anything that anybody planned for some pandemic to come and wipe out about 3 or 4 months of our lives that we're never going to get back.
Well
don't think that was ever the intention from anybody doing anything. So just calm down, pump the brakes a little bit. We don't even know anything official. Yeah. Hell, I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked at the fact that Greg Abbott mentioned he talked to somebody in NASCAR for a state that's not deemed very race friendly. That to me, hell, that's breaking news in itself that Greg Abbott talked to somebody with NASCAR and Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah. You know what? You are exactly right. Let's who needs football? Who needs football? Hell, we got racing around here. Of course, I did post that on the Horn Twitter page, and I did see some people. I don't care. Whatever.
Hey, if racing comes back first, then it's still going to be live sporting events on TV.
Yeah.
Just like that. I mean, and there's plenty of questions. Question is, what is Fox going to do, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're not that far away to what NBC was going to start taking over.
Yeah.
So who knows? At this point, let's just get cars on the racetrack.
Yeah. Speaking of that, as we were talking about iRacing, this Saturday I think will be interesting because iRacing at COTA. I think that'll be kind of neat to watch. Again, I don't know how competitive it'll be, but that'll be cool. Kind of from a different angle right there. So again, we missed that race, but that doubleheader, I would have no problems with that. Whether I can go or not, I would have no problems with that. But there's your schedule.
Especially if it became an annual thing, right?
Yeah, no shit. There's your schedule right there. So again, we'll get that posted. I may wait till we have the official copy. Go back and send this to whoever, and they'll be able to grab a hold of that. And there you go. Kind of cool to have that. Again, thanks to Gina for putting the faith in us to throw that up there. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. To be able to break that news. Going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to talk to Robert Mullins. Lots of history right there, and he continues to be a part of racing. That's coming up on a Breaking News Monday right here from Texas. This is the Revved Up Sports Show. Stick around, friends.
Bush's Chicken is a proud supporter of area schools, athletic programs, and booster clubs. With stores in Cedar Park, Round Rock, Georgetown, both North and South Austin, and now our newest store in Pflugerville. Bush's serves the Texas standard in real hand-battered fried chicken and crispy tenders, tasty rolls, and that famous Bush's sweet tea.
I love Bush's Chicken.
Bush's Chicken. It's good, good, good. Discount Electronics is Austin and Round Rock's half-price computer store. They have $99 desktop computers, laptops starting at $120, Apple MacBooks from just $195, and LCD monitors starting at just $27. You can sell or trade your used electronics for store credit or cash. They have 3 convenient locations: North Austin, South Austin, and Round Rock. Computer repair is also offered at each location. They're voted the best of Austin year after year, and you can also order online at discountelectronics.com.
Hey friends, Rodney Rodriguez from Revved Up ATX on the horn. Lift up your neighbor and buy a box. One box equals 23 meals for a neighbor in need. $30 buys 28 pounds of food for a neighbor in need. One box for $30 will feed 23 healthy meals. We're raising funds for the Central Texas Food Bank. Join us and buy a box today. Hashtag buy a box.
The Lodge Poker Club is a members-only social club offering a wide range of daily and tournament gameplay serving Central Texas. Located in Round Rock, just off 35, the Lodge boasts the area's largest room with 20 tables, 30 big screen TVs, and nightly complimentary food. Whether you're looking for a tournament or a cash game, you will find it at the Lodge. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 to 4 a.m., and 24 hours on the weekend. Visit us at thelodgepokerclub.com or call us at 512-614-4045.
Revved Up Sports Show on your Breaking News Monday. Bobby Chaffee down south, Rodney Rodriguez up north. Talking racing, hashtag real race talk, Bobby. It's that is the beauty of it, man. We still get to do this, no matter what's going on. Whether we get those Texas races scheduled or not, we will be doing this. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's always fun to have a good time, even though we practice social distancing. Hopefully one day we'll get back in the same studio at the same time. But my view is interesting. If somebody sees me not paying complete attention to the to the screen there, it's on occasion. I've got a couple of my neighbors out that are mowing, and one of them, them is interesting to watch them mow.
I got you. I know exactly where you're going. With that. I can tell you where we're going right now. We are going to the Revved Up Sports Show hotline as our Man, we are on a roll of talking to people that are so influential in Texas racing and have been for a long time, and that continues this week. On that hotline, we have Mr. Robert Mullins. Robert, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Rodney. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Before we dive in, talking about all the fun stuff for you, family, everybody good going through this. Your thoughts? Never seen anything like this before.
Never, ever seen anything like this. And then to have the situation with the oil happening simultaneously, it's a interesting time to be a Texan, that's for sure. So, yeah, everybody's good. We're waiting it out here in Comanche County on a ranch, so we could be in worse places. So everything's as good as can be expected. Thanks for asking.
Yes, sir.
Well, Robert, thanks for the time. We know time is valuable, but let's talk about your background. We'll get into the actual Romco stuff later, but I mean, a lot of people know you as just the Romco guy, but you were a pretty successful late model racer there. I always remember that red and white machine with the monster teeth up front. That car was getting a lot faster, and you were getting a lot more comfortable in that seat.
Yes, I started racing late models when I was in the Marine Corps. Yeah, Alcohol Speedway, California.
Oh, I think we might have lost him there. No, there we go.
I went there and saw it, loved it, said, I think I can do this, and found a way to get out there with a late model and run. I was the Rookie of the Year for El Cajon Speedway. Nice. And then moved to Texas when my time in the Marine Corps was over, and started racing a few races with Neil Upchurch's TIDA late model series, and did that for a while, got out, did some road racing, and then got interested back in the late models and sponsored some races, and started seeing the potential to use the racing to help market Romco Equipment Company. Yeah. So that's kind of the genesis of the series.
Yeah, and definitely, I tell you, that is a synonymous name. So you mentioned TIDA and Neil. He's a guy that he seems to come up every time we talk to you great legends. Your thoughts on Neil? He ran a pretty good little show right there with TIDA.
Yes, he did. I enjoyed my races there. They were a step up from just the Saturday night show that I was used to at El Cajon. Some great racers, some of the kind of the second generation, first generation racers here in Texas, just some legends. And then the best race was the IROC and the Texas Race of Champions out at Texas World Speedway there in College Station on the road course. My real love in racing is running stock cars, late models on a road course. Yes, there is just nothing funner than throwing that big car around with all that horsepower and bumping and grinding on a road course. So those were some great races. And when Neil closed down the late model series, we did some special races. Each track was kind of doing their own thing, and I just thought, I can use this for my marketing Romco Equipment Company if we can bring it together into a little more organized than each track doing their own thing. Yeah. So started off doing that, never really wanted to be a race promoter and didn't know how to do it. Just kind of started doing it, and luckily, I forget who it was, but they said, I need to talk to Terry Barden, and Terry came in, jumped on board as our race official, and our head official, and he did a great job. He ran the show. As soon as the racing started, I didn't have anything to do with it. Terry did. He made the calls, and I was out there racing, and I did some of the organization, the bookwork, the writing the checks for the drivers, all that kind of organization, the contracts with the tracks, but Terry really ran the show. Yeah. And his crew, Harry, Kinsey, and Linda Barden, and all the others that helped, Robert, Lance, you name it, those guys really help put on a really professional show. And that's what I wanted to make sure it was a professional show, one that the racers enjoyed, the fans enjoyed, and put on the type of show that carry on what Neil had done, carry on that tradition.
Absolutely.
Good, hard-nosed, clean racing with a lot of excitement thrown in there. And I think we accomplished that during our time.
Oh, yeah.
So Robert, I think it goes without saying, we always talk about the sponsorship, that there's got to be that return on investment. I think the coolest thing that you said is that you wanted to do the late model tour because it was a good investment and a way to market your equipment company. How
Yes.
is it something that's just missed nowadays, you think? Because maybe there's too many kids that just rely on dad's money. But I mean, aren't a lot of racers missing the boat in terms of how much, it's not just writing a check and putting the logos on the side of a car anymore. It's a competitive marketplace. You've got to give your sponsors return on investment.
Well, that's true. And I'm involved with the NEMA checks at Mimco and also at Front Row Motorsports with John Hunter on the Cup side. And they do a fabulous job of making sure their sponsors get their money's worth. And they're a class act. But on the late model series, we wanted good shows and a place that we could entertain customers. We would get 250 customers out there. We'd eat hamburgers, have a lot of cold beer, have a good time, watch a good race. There's some good stories that came out of all those times. Some of them that can be repeated and some of them can't, but our customers really enjoyed it. But there's some good stories. One of our customers drank a lot of beer and then decided, this was at Kyle at Thunder Hill, decided he didn't like the call the flagman made, so he crawled up into the flag stand with the flagman to tell him what he thought of his call. All this went on unbeknownst to me. I had my hands full just trying to drive a race car, but I'd hear them Saturday night at 1 o'clock. I'd start hearing all the stories, but our customers had a great time. There's still some guys that come in and ask about the series. That kind of makes me feel good that there's some that remember the series out there. My goal was to help pump racing up in Texas, late model racing, and I was hoping that somebody like NASCAR, All Pro, ASA, whoever would come in and I'd give it to them, sell it to them, whatever, and then they could carry it on and take it to the next level. I knew I could only take it to a certain level.
Right.
And that just didn't work out. I wished it had, so racing would have been stronger in Texas, asphalt racing, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about that here. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. I have to ask you, Robert, it's funny when we start pushing on social media that we're going to have certain folks on the program, we get folks that you got to ask this. So I got an interesting one that I want to ask you before we get any further. I got a message from Mike Haig, our good buddy Mike Haig. He was talking about a night at Kyle at Thunder Hill that you were. So somebody might have gotten into you there at Thunder Hill, and you were irritated, as you should have been, because someone got into you. You go in the pits and someone hands you a can of Coca-Cola, and you split that bad boy in half. You remember that?
Well, it might have been exaggerated some, but
okay.
I think I remember it. Yeah, no, you can. That's what I liked about short track racing is the emotions go from the highest highs to the lowest lows, and we had some great racers out there. I mean, it was a good heyday of racers. I mean, if I could go down some of the list of the guys, they were all fun guys to be around. Every now and then they weren't fun to be around, but that's racing. But, Fred Schultz, Darren Ellis, James Coursey, John Silverthorne, Kent Balzell, obviously the Davisons, Chris and Greg, the Leger brothers, David and Doug, Kenny Bombera, Doug Hooks, Donnie Wilson, Tommy Grimes, Jay Watson, just to name a few of the guys that were up there. I mean, we kind of traveled together. You ended up knowing everybody pretty well and knew what kind of drivers they were. And there was a lot of other people that raced with us, in there. But that was kind of the core. And, they were great guys. Denny Burton, would race with us and work on race cars. He's still a good friend that I keep in contact with. Met a lot of good people. Greg Detheridge, we talk probably once a month to just talk about the old Romco days and everything. We had a lot of good times sitting back there and just watching this circus that we had turned loose going. So it was great. The fans got into it. They sometimes they'd come and tell you what they thought of you, right to your face.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, holy cow, how did I get to deserve this? But you grinned and bared it, and some of it didn't make you happy. But then somebody would come up and have you sign their child's shirt or something.
Yeah.
So that kind of made it feel special. So the bad certainly got outweighed by the good, and it was a great time. Car racing was just blowing up in the United States at that time, especially stock car racing. Yeah. And so it was a good time. We had some good tracks. We put on some good shows. I remember the first time I'd never seen Corpus before. We had raced there.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked in there and I said, how on earth can we race on this? This thing is so small. I thought,
and bumpy.
We need to trade in these big late models and get some go-karts. But somehow you couldn't practice on it. It was too small, but when that race went down, it put on some great racing.
Yeah.
And, San Antonio was just a wicked fast track.
Yeah.
I mean, it scared me. I mean, and I've still got lumps where something broke that I never went and had looked at, from that place.
Yeah.
That place, that separated the men from the boys.
We hear that a lot. Yeah, we hear that a lot about these guys.
And Kyle was great. Wish it had two grooves, but it was a root them out of the low groove and get under them and put them past you. Try not to put you in the wall. Houston was a top-notch facility. Loved racing there. Really loved it. Yeah. That was a great place. Of course, we had some races up at Texas Motor Speedway. We were a support show to NASCAR and the Indy cars, and what a thrill to have us late models out there. Yeah. As a support race to the Indy cars, we looked like we weren't even moving compared to the Indy cars. But so we had a road course there. I wish we could have worked in more road courses. Just at that time in Texas, there weren't any road courses that could handle spectators. Right. But you don't always get what you want, but we made the best of what we had. And we really seriously talked about Devil's Bowl, going there and running some dirt races and with the super lights, kind of like some of the series that go from asphalt to dirt. So, but we never made it there.
Now that would have been something to see. That would have been something to see.
Well, I've never been on dirt in my life. It would have been really something to see.
Yeah. Yes.
So we would either been horrible or we would have been great. I remember when we raced with at the road course at Texas Motor Speedway, we were racing with organization NASA, which has gotten a lot bigger. But at that time, I really wasn't sure what kind of racing they did. And so you have all these Texas super late guys, working class guys, coming out, and we were mixing with more of the truly wine and cheese crowd. I mean, they had wicker baskets with picnic food in it. Here we are eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches while we're working on our cars, and they were running some sort of car that looked like an MG. That's all. I don't even know what it was. And it was more of a gentleman's race, and they were talking to us about how they didn't allow, you could only pass when you were given the signal, and they were flabbergasted when we got out there. And started rooting and gouging, and I think Chris Davison started it, but there was an S in it, and he just completely didn't even bother trying to stay on the asphalt. He just kept that thing straight, and next thing you know, the whole crowd, every 40 cars that were out there were just going through the rocks and not even bothering with the S's. And one great story, we were driving around before the race, setting up the track. We had to make a pit for the Romco cars. And I was with their race director, and he was telling me that front engine cars spin to the inside and rear engine cars spin to the outside. So we didn't need barricades separating the track from the pits, because the pits were on the outside. And I was like, what? We go every which way. We spin to the inside, we spin to the outside, we spin forward, we spin backwards, we go out of the stadium. I mean, I was like, we have to guard the pits. There's no controlling these cars. And sure enough, somebody ended up against that wall separating the pit from the track. And I wanted to look them up and say, see, I told you so. But they were flabbergasted. Within 10 laps, we were flying, just flying around that road course. But it was just a great. I was running third at one time, and I ran over one of those. I was running third pretty towards the end of the race, and ran over a tire and had a flat, and that took me out. Chris Davison, I think, won that race. So that was an experience. I wish we could have done more of that.
Oh, I love it.
But my goal was to try to keep pricing reasonable, but technology during that time period just exploded, and all sorts of things were coming in, and the price just kept skyrocketing. That was one of my major disappointments, that I wasn't able to control pricing like I wanted.
Right.
But
so Robert, you talked about Terry Barton taking over a lot of the stress on the race day portion of it. How hard was that to really separate in your mind from when you were racing somebody? Were you had the red mist where, like, if you bumped them a little bit, you weren't all that worried about making a racer upset, not wanting to come back, or was it something that just worked out, or just the way the personality works out for you?
It's kind of hard to be the series owner and also a racer, but I told Terry, I said, look, if I do something wrong, you find me, you do whatever you would anybody else. And he did. I was put on probation. And I told him, I said, Terry, if I feel like I have to cheat to be up front, I'm going to cheat. So you need to find it if I'm doing it. Right. And I won't say if I did or didn't, but I told him that there's the possibility that if to get up to the front, if I feel everybody else is cheating and getting away with it, then I'm going to be, trying it. And that's where traction control was coming in at that time. And, the rumor was everybody was running except the guy that was complaining about it. And, we just couldn't control it. Everybody was swearing. Everybody else was running traction control. So we made it legal. So to make it cheaper, because you could buy a unit for $1,500 that they'd fine, the inspectors would fine, in 2 minutes, or you could spend $15,000 that they would never fine. So if they're going to spend 15, why don't we make it legal and everybody can have it? I couldn't tell a difference in a car that had it, and and the racing didn't change a whole lot when it became legal. So I don't know how much it was at that point in time effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Mullins with us on the Revved Up Sports Show hotline, talking, man, already good stuff. I love this. Robert, let me ask you. So, one of the guys you actually had, the Wares are some famous folks out there in San Antonio. At one point, you had Trey Ware, famous right now KTSA radio man, famous radio man for many years. Good guy you had there in the car. That's a good racing family right there.
Yes, it is. A lot of history in the San Antonio area, and I had gotten to meet Trey a couple of times for one reason or the other related to racing, and I ended up with an extra car. I bought from Tommy Davis, good racer, in kind of that second generation of racers. Mm-hmm. And then I bought a newer car. It was an older car. Bought a little newer one. I had it sitting there. I said, you know what? I'm going to call Trey and see if he wants to drive this thing. I knew it helped get publicity. Oh, yeah. Couldn't hurt. Yep. And Trey, is a good race car driver. He didn't have as good equipment. I mean, the priority went to my car, and Trey,
Sure.
I won't say get the leftovers, but
Yeah.
he didn't have the latest, greatest of everything, but he made do with it and never complained about that at all, and did the best he could. And, his goal was to finish in front of me. And, so, and I think he did it a few times at Corpus. So
sure. Yeah.
I was proud of him to do that. Where, the engine and that kind of stuff doesn't mean as much because it's a quarter-mile track. I mean, I don't think I ever used, we were roughly 600 horsepower at that time. I think you could have done exactly what we were doing with 300 horsepower. Because I was remembering I couldn't ever get any forward bite there during practice. And so in qualifying, I said, you know what, guys, I'm tired of this. I said, I don't know if it's me or if it's a race car. I said, I'm just going to, once I get on the gas, I'm not going to back out. I'm just going to see what happens. So I go into turn 3, slow down, pick up the throttle coming out of 4, and then I'm matted. And I didn't come off of it. And sure enough, it skated out and just smacked the wall right in front of Terry Barden.
Oh, yeah.
And it had those boilerplate.
Oh, yeah.
Just like San Antonio. And it sounded like a huge bass drum.
Yep.
Somebody hit this gigantic bass drum.
Yep.
Everybody runs out to see what happened. But I found out what happened if you don't lift there. So you're going to hit the wall.
Yeah.
But I remember Terry jumping back, and he was like, "What were you doing?" I said, "I just had to know, Terry. I just had to know."
Yeah. I can tell you, and of course that track, it had that super smooth surface, on top of that. But just a few years ago, I say a few, it's been several now, 2014, something like that. I was racing dwarf cars there, and so when you talk about the smaller car, it's like you're not on the gas very long. I was going into turn 3, and I get out of the throttle to hit the brake, and as I'm about to hit the brake, I hit a bump, and my foot just goes right past the brake, so I never lit off, and I hit that wall, and it was like boom, and you're thinking, man, this is going to be really, really bad. But it's a fun track though, really, really good racing there.
It was a fun track. I remember, I think it was Chris Davison said he was going to put a little caster on the sides of his car so he could just go up there and like a slot car,
ride the wall,
and just put that caster right up on the wall and just go right around it. So.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that big bass drum sound was. I remember Greg Dethridge hit that wall and made the bass drum. That was for everybody to run from the pits up to the wall to see the crash.
Something happened. Yep, that's right. That's right. Good times.
It let you know.
That's right. Exactly.
So, Robert, it sounds like Corpus was the most challenging track. Which was your favorite track, San Antonio?
No, I would say Houston. I liked Houston. I had a little more success there. Every now and then you just find a track that fits your style or whatever. I don't know if I had a style. I never did figure that out, what my style was. But just some reason you gel at one track versus another track. And I was always pretty confident that when I went to Houston, I was going to have at least a competitive shot at. So I enjoyed that. Corpus, San Antonio. When your car worked right, and I only experienced that a handful of times. That was a very fun track. It was a track I hated to practice at, but I loved to race it. And, John Kelly there, he made you look like you were standing still. And I mean, some of these guys had that track down so well that, they just flew. Greg Davis and, Ralph Burris, those guys, they could haul the mail around that place. And, when I quit driving, I still had the series, and I'd watch the race from there. And, I mean, I was terrified. I had no idea we were going as fast as we were going. I mean, in the car, it doesn't seem that fast. And I sat in the stands, and I just said, holy smokes, these cars are fast.
Yeah.
I had no conception of how fast they went around that track.
Yeah.
Till I got out of the car.
Yeah.
But that was a good track. Kyle put on good races. So, but Houston was my all around favorite.
Yeah, and actually, and the one left tentatively
Yes.
looks like June 20th. Hopefully, will be the first race. So we'll have to have you out. That would be great to have you out there if you were available. So let's talk a little bit. A lot of folks, I remember back when you had the series, when you had the Romco series, folks talked about Romco, and through the years, a lot of folks have asked me, well, what exactly is Romco? At one point. At one point, I think folks actually thought Romco was like a sanctioning body. so
No,
so,
we weren't.
no, and still aren't.
Still aren't, and won't ever be.
That's right.
But no, we're a heavy construction equipment dealership. We sell, rent, lease, work on it, provide parts for everything you see out there that's tearing up the highways and rebuilding them. You know, building the subdivisions, moving the dirt, building the construction materials, the rock that goes in the highways and the concrete. We're into all that. The light towers you see, the generators, the pumps. So we provide heavy construction equipment to the contractors that actually build the roads. You know, tear them down, build the drainage ditches, and build the stormwater runoff sewer. So our customer base is usually pretty oriented towards mechanical things. So that's why it was kind of a natural fit between Romco Equipment Company, the racing, and our customers. Yeah, most guys that are in construction like mechanical things.
Yep.
So it was sort of a natural. And we've continued that with the NEMA checks. And we're doing similar what we did with the series, we do with the NEMA checks when they come to Texas Motor Speedway. We host a bunch of customers, and the NEMA checks give you that behind the scenes feel and look for our customers to experience NASCAR behind the scenes. And they do a wonderful job.
Indeed.
So, Robert, how'd that deal come out? Did they find you? Did you find the hardworking NEMA Check crew? Take us behind the curtain a little bit on how something like that goes from a conversation to full-time sponsorship.
I even though I wasn't racing, I still watched racing quite a bit on television. And John Hunter was running in the truck series and winning, and he had very few sponsors on his truck. Right. And I forget which race it was, but they had won it, and Joe said something like, well, if we want to keep doing this, we sure could use some sponsorship, or words to that effect. I said, you know what, I'm going to contact them. And so Craig Taylor, I don't know if y'all know Craig, he helped me with the series. Yep. He's actually the one that got us in the Texas Motor Speedway. Contact them on my behalf. We tried to work something out. I always have some kooky spin on things. Yeah. And what I was offering them wasn't the normal NASCAR sponsorship package. And they said, no, we're not too interested in that. And then a little time went by, I contacted them again and just said, hey guys, look, if you don't have sponsorships, here's a certain amount of money. If you throw my big decal on the trunk lid of the bed of the pickup truck, I'll send you a check for this amount of money. And they said, and you can do that 5 times. So when you don't have sponsorship, so you have some money coming in, put it on there. And so they bid on it that time. and so they put it on there right before the race. I said, look, I don't care when it goes on there. If it's, if they're pasting it on there while they're pushing it out to the grid, all I care is it on TV or not? That's it. And so they got it on there. They did real well. The logo showed up real well. And so it was a positive, and we kind of expanded that. And then we started talking about Texas Motor Speedway, that we do the whole car, and that kind of started it off. Joe is a great guy. We hit it off. We kind of related with each other. John Hunter is an outstanding young man, very humble, very hardworking, and he did great with our customers, and the guy can drive a race car. And so we just kind of hit it off. We've been doing it for 6 years now, and we followed him as he went up to Xfinity and now into the Cup. I told him their job is to, to do so well that they put me out of the sponsorship business because I won't be able to afford them. So
absolutely.
Further and further. So they're getting pretty close to outgrowing me. So, but in the meantime, we're having a great time, and our customers have a great time out there, and it's a good time. My management team and my managers and the Romco people get behind it and have a good time and put on a good show and for the customers. And so we're doing a lot like what we did in the Romco series, but with the NASCAR now.
Yeah.
So that's my involvement with racing. And I can tell you it's a lot easier being a sponsor than it is to be either a team owner or a race car driver or a series owner or whatever my title was here at the Romco Super Late Model Series. It's a lot easier just to send the checks.
That's right.
It's a little harder to write them, but it's it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
You don't wake up sore and tired and mad or and when they do well, I get about the same high as when I did well.
Yeah. Rider's cramps are a little easier to get over than some of that other stuff. Absolutely.
Yes.
And Robert, it is an absolute joy. Bobby and I, when the Romco cars or truck, whatever it is, are out there, we're like, hey, there it is. It's still so cool to see that logo, watching that series for so long, to see that out there. So damn neat. So let's at the series, just a great run for the series, carried on from TIDA. Then, man, we just kind of went off the rails around here with pavement. Plenty of dirt everywhere, but man, we lost it, and we just trying to get it back. But in your opinion, obviously it got very expensive. But what happened to us?
I think the money is the main thing, and this all happened before the internet and the hundreds of different ways to entertain yourself on a Saturday night type competition for racing happened. In our particular case, we started out, you could buy a 500 horsepower engine for $6,000, $7,000. At the end of the Romco series, people were spending $45,000, $50,000 for an engine. There's only so many people that can afford that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I quit driving. I was sitting there and I was about to pull the trigger on $6,000 worth of shock absorbers that probably weren't going to make me go much faster, but I felt I had to have them. Yeah. That escalation of, okay, he has them, I got to have them. So in hindsight, I think we discussed, Terry and I had some pretty serious discussions on, coming out with a spec motor. We felt we had to be faster than the local late models.
Yeah.
So we had to have more horsepower, but 560, 550, 575 would have done the trick. And keep the engine pricing down. We should have come out with a spec shock absorber, because at that time, shock absorbers just blew up on pricing and the importance on handling. And, people were buying shock absorber rigs that didn't even know how to work them. They had them in their car, in their trailer, but didn't know what to do with them. But they felt they had to have them. Yeah. If we could have kept it a little more reasonable and kept the car count up. I mean, one of the things I would sit there, I'd worry about how fast my car was or the lap of how fast it was.
Yeah.
And then also had to worry about the crowd coming. Are we going to get a good crowd so the race promoter, the racetrack owner feels like he got his money's worth out of the series? And then I would worry about, okay, how many guys are going to show up?
Yeah.
And, when it started getting 18 and stuff, you just get that sick feeling in your stomach, like, where are they? Come on, guys. Yeah. Please show up. So, the race was a relief. If they could have just beamed me into the car, without practice and all that other stuff on the starting grid, anywhere between 6th and 20th, I would have been happy. Just stick me in it.
That's it.
Because our normal routine is we come off the trailer, we'd be pretty fast, and we'd start tuning on it, and we'd go slower and slower. So, just stick me in it. No practice. I'm not going to get any faster with more laps. It seemed like so.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
All we did was tune ourselves out of the speed. But, But if we could have held the pricing down some, I think we could have at least kept those good car counts going for another 5 or 6, 7 years, and then, see how we would have competed against all the pressures that, late Saturday night racing has to compete with today. Right. So I have no answer on how we bring that back. I wish it would, but I don't have any answers. I mean, I have opinions, but, they're worth what you pay for them.
That's it. That's right.
So, Robert, did you ever get a chance to go to some of the other different late model sanctions across the country and watch the races and get any ideas, or was it something just between the equipment company and the Romco Tour that you just didn't have time for it?
I really didn't have time. Like I said, my exposure was the show out at El Cajon, which Southern California was a mecca of speed back then. I mean, you had Riverside, you had road courses everywhere. You had all sorts of dirt tracks, asphalt tracks. I mean, it was just a great place to be if you were interested in motorsports, motocross, everything. So I saw a healthy Saturday night program at El Cajon. I mean, they raced from 7 o'clock in the evening. The races started and they ended at 2 in the morning, and they had 30 cars in every class or more. It had grandstands on both sides of the track. Yeah. And that was El Cajon, and that wasn't even one of the most popular tracks around there. The O Show and all sorts of Gardenia, all sorts of tracks. So my exposure wasn't too great. It was there, then the TIDA, and then, the local tracks around Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Robert, we were, the news comes out today. Obviously, you're involved with NASCAR now as a sponsor. So the governor and Eddie Gossage and NASCAR, IndyCar, everybody's starting to put their heads together. Your thoughts on all of that? It sounds like we're progressing to maybe getting something happening soon. What's your thoughts on that as someone that's involved, inside NASCAR as a sponsor?
Well, I only know NASCAR superficially. I'm not any big insider guy there, but I can tell you one thing: there's going to be some busy people, very busy people. They're already busy with their schedule they have, but now they're condensing their full schedule into half the time period. It looks like there are going to be some tired people by the end of this season.
Yeah.
I think, I worry that, people have gotten used to not going, and will they come back? I think they will. It was on an upswing for sure. The excitement was growing in racing again in the NASCAR series. It looks like they're doing the right things on getting the cars, back to where they're side-by-side racing and, hard-nosed racing, but, competitive. Mm-hmm. There's as many teams out there that can win today as there's ever been. And there's not that much that separates the middle of the pack from the front of the pack as it used to, in my opinion. And so I think they were on the right course, and hopefully they can get back on it. I've always advocated that, why are you trying to compete with football? Why can't you do a Wednesday night show or something? So this might shake things up enough that they can do things outside of the box that they have not been willing to try before because of the fear of the backlash from the traditional NASCAR fan that doesn't like to see a lot of change. And so possibly, who thought iRacing would have been popular?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. So I think they can use this time period to experiment a little bit on how they bring the show, the length of the shows, and modify things without the huge backlash because they're backed into a corner. And so this is a good opportunity, I think, in my opinion, to try some new things. Wednesday, midweek racing, shorter races, things like that. And they're already headed down.
Yeah. Totally agree. I love that. I really think that it is the time. Quickly, Robert, want to ask you, you mentioned dirt. You mentioned dirt, and I was talking there about still a lot of dirt tracks out there. Have you become a dirt fan since you stepped away from the series and everything now as a sponsor? You a dirt guy at all, or are you a pavement head?
No,
like
I
Bobby
appreciate. No, I appreciate dirt. I like watching the late models on dirt and on television. I haven't got around to going to the tracks to see the shows in person. I have seen them in the past, and just recently I haven't. But no, I appreciate dirt, and I appreciate the quality of drivers that it produces. You learn things you learn different things going up through the dirt ranks that I think gives you an advantage when you switch over to asphalt. I do believe that it's easier to switch from dirt to asphalt than to go from asphalt to dirt. And there's a reason for that. There's a little more knowledge base you have to be a good dirt racer. There's things that you have to know because the conditions change so much that really helps those drivers that come up through dirt when they move up into asphalt. They're willing to try different lines and experiment and not be satisfied with running one line and just wishing your car was better. That's something I wish I had learned in racing is, okay, go find the line that's going to work for you instead of just sitting here on the same line and hoping you could change your car, wishing you could change it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I tried that asphalt to dirt transition and just never really figured it out. But anyway, that's a great analysis right there. Very good. I have to tell you, you mentioned Greg Deathridge a little earlier in this interview. He actually gets the referral fee on this because he's the one. He gave me your number. He's like, here, call him. and people do that. And Robert, I have to tell you, people have told me, oh yeah, here's a number, call him. And boy, some people let me have it when I call them. So thank you.
I love talking about the old series and racing. And I know the Nemecheks, when I first met them, I kind of said, yeah, I used to race. And they're like looking at me like, yeah, okay, sure, bud. And yeah, I had this series, and they're like, yeah, sure. They're sitting there going, who is this, blowhard? Yeah. And, so there are some blowhards in racing.
Oh yeah.
So this helps solidify. I told them I was going to be on here so they can tell that I'm not making all this stuff up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. Well, I can tell you when we're done, we'll podcast this thing out and we'll send it to. It'll hit a lot of syndicated sites, so everybody can. Here's where it's going to get. It might get tedious for you because you're going to have people calling you because everybody's going to want a sponsorship now. So you may regret this.
Yes, I know. But yeah,
absolutely.
You can only do so much. So, but yeah. That's why I helped some dirt tracks out to be built, lending us some equipment. And they said, we'll put your sign up. I said, no, don't. Can't sponsor the whole field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
awesome. Everybody needs that money. It doesn't matter if you're in a bomber or you're in Cup. There's never enough of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Bobby. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to tell Robert we were talking about iRacing being popular. I remember when they did the Texas Invitational race and John Hunter was running the Romco colors.
Yeah.
I know Rodney, Mike Hague, and myself were joking about, hey, look, he's running top 5 with the Romco colors, and we're waiting for the Nacho Bar in the media center to open up. So it is kind of funny how some of that does come full circle.
Yes. So it looked good. That black and yellow really popped out on that car in the iRacing format. It looks real good.
It really did.
I was proud of that.
And
they did
it's
that
probably cheaper too.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'll have to tell you, Robert, go back at some point and watch the video part of this on Facebook because we keep a little cooler here in the main studio where just to have a couple of cool beverages. Got to edit this thing once we're done, but it is a Romco Super Racing Series insulated cooler from way back when. the official cooler of the studio. Of course, I think this is probably I don't know who may have done these, but we have it here.
Sam Hill did those because I remember selling shirts.
Yeah,
with Sam Hill.
I remember Sam Hill, and I have to give a shout out to Darren Ellis. He did the shirts, and I found some the other day.
Sweet.
And he did a great job. And Darren was one hell of a race car driver on dirt who made could jump into an asphalt car and be fast. Great guy. You mentioned Greg Deathridge, another great guy. We had a lot of fun together. Just some outstanding guys that I still keep in contact with. So it's good memories.
Yeah, super cool.
Anytime y'all want to have me back and talk to these, maybe we can get some of these racers on there to talk about it too.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'd love to have him, Mr. Mullins. That would be awesome. And Bobby and I always, we watched all these races in the past, and we always like to tell folks like you, thank you for giving us so many great years of memories to talk about like this. I mean, if it weren't for guys like you, there'd be voids in history right there, and it's really nice to reminisce, especially right now that there's nothing. It's good to go back in time and think about what we had.
Well, I appreciate that. And it was I won't say it was always a pleasure to bring you those races, but it was usually a pleasure to bring you those races.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
But overall, I think we put on some darn good races, had good car counts and good fan count. We were good for the tracks. So I'm proud of what we accomplished.
Absolutely. You should be. Great era right there in Texas racing, and best wishes, continued success there with the Nemecheks moving forward. I'm sure that you will have it, and we look forward to seeing that famous Romco yellow emblem out there, man. That's a great detail.
Well, cheer for it, and I appreciate it, Bobby and Rodney. I had a good time, and anytime.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
All right, awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. Take care.
All right.
There he is, Robert Mullins. Man, and Bobby, we're doing well, man. We've had Neil and Robert Mullins. Pretty damn good.
That's right.
Pretty damn good.
Had some pretty good luck. I think it's funny how he said that he was going to show it to the Nemecheks. Have we had John Hunter on that Saturday show, or we had him?
No, we haven't had.
Now's a really good chance to try to get him, huh?
Haven't had either one of them. Yeah. He might have a little free time, dude. I got to tell you a funny story. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you were there one night, but I was going. Terry Barden was. It was at Thunderhill. He wasn't the race director at the time because Marianne had brought him in. And he was going to be, I don't remember if he had been sick. Somebody will have to tell me what happened. If he had been sick, he had been away from the track for a little bit. And he was the, I've forgotten this. He was the Grand Marshal, the VIP, whatever it was that night. And they bring him down on the racetrack, and I'm talking about how great he was and blah, 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 blah. And I hadn't said his name. And I'm like, everybody, please put your hands together for the great Robert Mullins. And it was Terry Barden.
There, yeah.
It was Terry Barden. Terry's like, what
I was there that night because I was up in the tower. Because you were downstairs doing the intros. I was up in the tower trying to help John run music. And I remember my jaw hit the floor, and John was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I said, you have no idea the FUBU that he just made.
Terry's like, what the he said it too.
Yeah, he did.
But I'm like,
the look on his face is priceless.
Yeah, I said, well, I could have called you worse. Could have called you worse. But man, just and I'll tell you, man, we use the word passion on the show a lot. You still hear the passion there for him talking about his time behind the wheel and running that series. And man, it's still there, even writing checks. And I'm sure those are not small checks.
And I'm sure they're not. But it just shows his dedication to the sport. It goes back to, we've talked about it before. We talked about it with a lot of people. It is not just as simple as putting a sticker on your car with somebody's name on it. You got to give them a reason to stick around. Return on investment. Our good buddy, our northern friend, talks about that all the time when he talks about even something as simple as the Texas Dirt Truck Series.
Yep.
You got to give that. That's the number one thing is, guys, if you're out there, it doesn't matter whether or not you're a 13-year-old driving a go-kart or you're a 67-year-old trying to drive a sprint car. Give your sponsors a return on their investment. They've got to have it. It's not as simple as my sponsor is ABC Towing. You got to get people involved with ABC Towing.
Yeah, yeah, and also, I mean, something that he talked about there that drivers should think about. How'd he get hooked up with the Nemecheks? He said he heard them say that they needed sponsorship. He liked what they did. He liked the way they presented themselves. Image is very, very important, and I think that we've learned here in the last week and a half. Image versus what you actually are is even more important. So, guys, I mean, present yourself well. It's a job interview. I mean, you are a salesperson. You get out there, and who knows? I mean, because I do remember the Nemecheks out there in those vehicles, those white cars and trucks, nothing on them. And you know, like he said, it may not be, you know, Budweiser sponsorship dollars, but man, big dollars are big dollars, and he's helping them out quite a bit.
Yeah, anybody that puts money in your program that's not you is considered very, very helpful and needed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you need to acknowledge them. I mean, it doesn't matter if they buy you a tire or if they buy you a brand new car. You need to acknowledge those sponsors. So, Bobby, quickly back. Thanks to Robert Mullins for that. That was awesome. We'll have it podcasted at hornfm.com and revvedupsportshow.com. There's that Houston schedule up once again. If you were joining us a little bit late, if you tuned in to hear Mr. Mullins there is your Houston race schedule there that we got from Gina just minutes before we went on the air. So something to plan around right there. You got plenty of time. I guess your target date, I mean, if you're not a big practicer like Robert was talking about right there, shoot for June 20th. That's your drop dead date at this point.
Yep. It'll be here before you know it.
Pardon that pun. Pardon that pun.
Yeah. Anyway. It'll be here for you know. I didn't realize that we were on 420 today. It wasn't until I heard some inside jokes on Facebook I was like, wow, we're already to 420.
Yeah. Everybody's celebrating Snoop and Willie Nelson today.
That's right. Have a really nice day.
Yeah, apparently. But that schedule is up. So again, to the rest of our folks that are watching and listening to this or catching it afterwards, if you revise your schedule, I'm thinking what will happen now is we'll start seeing you know how this works. I mean, the dominoes will start to fall where folks have somewhat of a, I'm not going to say totally realistic idea, but have somewhat of an idea what they may or may not be able to do. I mean, some of these, the question at this point, so we'll start seeing revised schedules. I mean, even NASCAR's talking about it as well. So the question now is going to be, Bobby, and you know, and it's a big question for a lot of race fans. We had it on the thread earlier. Will there be fans? And that's going to be to be determined. But
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. The nice thing is, though, it looks like we really may get back to real competition sooner than later.
That's right. The difference between Texas Motor Speedway having the potential to run without fans and the difference between Houston running without fans is that there's not that big of a difference. It's real race cars on a real racetrack, and we'll find you're going to be able to watch them one way or the other.
Yeah, and that'll be the thing that, you know, we were talking earlier about. You know, now's not the time to get pissed off and do whatever. If these local races, I mean, if the dirt tracks in Houston, if they wind up being a pay-per-view type of situation, buy the pay-per-view and watch it. I mean, because somehow, you know, some of that money will get back to the racetrack, and the racetrack's going to need money. And back to the Houston thing, as Gina mentioned to me, guys, if there's a problem there with getting, you know, to get to the racetrack, to be able to actually race, reach out to her, whether it be on Facebook or email or something, and let her know, and she'll try to work with you. And I think that she'll do all that she can. And I'm sure all the promoters will, you know, once they get set.
Yeah. I need to talk to her about getting me one of those EcoStock rides to that big EcoStock extravaganza there on the 19th.
Well, I don't know if she has cars laying around, but I know but there will be some. There will be some. And it's good to actually, you know, I'm not going to say it's a light at the end of the tunnel right now, but it's good to have at least a faint dim thing over there. This is all going to, and again, this is the importance where we talk about on the show all the time, the importance of these major league series doing well and what they do. When we start seeing the moving parts and pieces there with NASCAR and IndyCar and World of Outlaws and all of that, when we start seeing that happen, that's when it's going to fall into a little bit easier place for us, because that's where some of those restrictions will be lifted a little bit, and we'll be able to do a little bit more. So keep your eye on all that stuff.
Yeah, lots of good things ahead. Seeing lots of good promising stuff. There is some bad news today, you know, with some of the oil prices that who ever thought you'd ever remotely see it that low? But there, there is, there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's restrictions loosening. You just got to be smart about it. That's the one thing you got to continue to do. You're still, just because you can go outside doesn't mean you need to be a dumbass.
Absolutely.
That's the quote. That's the quote of the show right there.
That's the bottom line right there. Just do what they're telling us to do. I mean, we don't always agree with the authoritative figures and so forth, but they've got some kind of idea of what they're doing. So let's just kind of follow that. Again, thoughts and prayers to Officer Putnam there, as Bobby saw the procession today, a very long one, which much deserved. Thanks to all of the folks that put their lives on the line in public service like that, and as we've said many times here on this program, thanks to the folks that are out there, working at the grocery outlets and all of the different places. I mean, they are literally taking their lives into their own hands, going out to do that stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's still, just remember, when it's all said and done, let's try not to be assholes again.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Great program here on Monday night. Hey, there's an NFL draft on Thursday, so that's some real sports. So that'll be interesting, especially when today many of the owners, in fact, the first team, they did a mock trial run. Cincinnati couldn't. The Cincinnati Wi-Fi, they were having trouble. They couldn't even start the mock draft on time. So this could be fun. And people are bitching that Jerry and Stephen Jones get to be together. They're family, though. They're family.
That's right.
That's part of how.
And it's under a group of 5.
That's exactly right. That's Thursday. Stay tuned to Revved Up Sports Show here on Facebook, on Twitter, at Revved Up ATX. May have special shows coming up. People seem to be a lot more available right about now than they typically are. So be looking for those. Bobby is down south. I am up north. Be nice to someone, folks. You never know what they're going through. You're going to feel better as well afterwards. Bobby, have a great week, man.
All right, you do the same, partner.
Absolutely. Y'all be good. We'll see you next time. This is Revved Up Sports Show from Texas.